Welcome back, folks. Let's talk about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Um, Not the biggest fan of it. We're going to start with no spoilers, then move on to spoilers later. So if you have not read it, let me tell you what it's about. We have two people, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Now, the Nightmare Painter, which they call him Painter throughout most of the book, so I'm just going to call him Painter. He lives in a world, well, at least a city, where the outskirts are blocked by darkness, this thing called the Shroud. And when you get to the edge of the city, the last street, you could look out and you see nothing, blackness. Now, within that blackness live nightmares, and the nightmares will come to town and feed on the fears of people while they sleep. Eventually, as they do this more and more, 1 week, 2 weeks, they get bigger and stronger and they start to become what they call stable. And that's when they can start to hurt people and even destroy an entire town. So it's Painter's job to paint them. How does that get rid of them? Well, he paints them into something benign and innocent. Say you see a nightmare with like a couple of points on the top and squinty eyes, and you paint it into a nice cuddly cat. And for whatever reason, painting it on canvas as you're concentrating on it will change its shape and into that cute cuddly cat, and it will kind of poof, disappear. So that's what he does. Then we have Yumi. Yumi lives in the past. I always just thought of like feudal Japan, cherry blossoms and that kind of stuff. And she is, how to say what she is? She's not really a priestess or a shaman or something. I don't know. But here's what she does. Her job is to summon spirits. Now, there's only 13 other girls like her who can summon them. And she goes around to different towns to summon these spirits to request that they help out the local people, help them with their farming and any other thing they might need help with. And it's a very essential job because people need the help from the spirits to be able to get through their daily lives and provide for their families and to maintain their work. So both of them do have very important jobs in their worlds. At some point, though, they get mixed up into each other's worlds. Painter wakes up in Yumi's world one day. She wakes up in his world. He wakes up in her world. His world, her world, his world, her world. And they just keep going round and round and round. They have to figure out why this is happening. Now, over the course of some time, they end up, he starts learning about her life and her work and even learning to do what she does. Same thing with her, learning about his life and starting to do what he can do. And so this whole thing is trying to figure out how to get things back to normal. Because she's very traditional. He's very, new age and, whatever. And she's like, no, it must be like this, this, and this. So you can see how those two personalities would clash. Of course, if you could probably guess, they come to understand each other, build a relationship, and really start to care for each other. It's just that, man, I don't know. I got through like half this book, like half of it. It's only 365 pages. Half the book, and I was thinking, nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. We get little bits of information and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, that's new. We're gonna go with that, and then nothing comes of it, or at least not until much, much later. We get 10 pages of her going to a shop with the guy's friends and trying on clothes, talking about bras. We get a long time of him learning to do what she does in her world, which I understand is pretty necessary, but it just seemed to drag on. These kids, they're only 19 years old. So you've got their friends, or at least his friends, where they get together and they just talk about the most inane stuff and the kind of jokey, cheesy stuff that teenagers talk about, and it's just kind of like, there's a big problem out here. Can we focus on that? So I will say at the end, though, he got me. He got 1 point up with the emotional pull at the end. So I did enjoy the climax, the very end. It was just that the lead up to it just didn't, I don't know, it didn't do much for me. And even at the end, the narrator has to explain a lot of stuff to you because stuff was going on and I thought I was figuring it out. I'm like, okay, maybe I understand. And then the narrator jumps in and says, let me explain this to you. And I was like, thank you. So I didn't really care for it. Well, I didn't care for it more than Tress. Tress was all right. This was not very good. Not very good at all. So that's all I'm going to say about that for no spoilers. I am going to move on to the Frugal Wizard next of the secret projects. Hopefully that's better. So if you have not read the book, please stop here. We're going to move on to spoilers. Do like and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Leave a comment for me after you read the book and come back to it and check out to see what we have coming up. All right, spoilers. As I mentioned, I'm glad that Hoyd was there to explain the end because it just cleared things up. I kind of thought I understood what was going on, but just have the clarification. Thank you, Hoyd. You get a little annoying sometimes narrating these stories, especially since this time you were just a coat rack. I was like, okay, whatever. But yeah, the ending was all right with me. I was hoping for the sad ending when they were going to break apart, and he mentioned the serials that he'd like to watch and about the sad endings. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, I'm cool with this. It's not a happy ending. It's kind of like, oh no, man. You save the day, but at what cost? Then the big puff of cloud, and he pulls her out of the smoke, and happily ever after. Fine, I guess that's fine. I know he wrote it for his wife, and you got to have a happy ending for the wife. But if things would have just ended with how it ended, maybe like a little something at the end to remind each other back in their own world that the other was there, would have been nice. But all right, happy ending, fine. Man, I don't know what much to say that I already said in the non-spoiler section. It just seemed there were some really cool ideas in here about the nightmares and then the way they worked with the paintings and how they could work together in each other's world to do. I don't know. I just felt like more could have come of that because it seemed like Painter started to get a good grasp on how to do summoning spirits. But it seemed like Yumi in his world, there's really nothing going on there, so it seemed like a lot of wasted time and effort. I gotta say, compared to Tress, I didn't get as emotionally attached. Not that I was super attached to Tress, but I just felt for her more, her story. Just I got more involved with it. This was very on the surface and just kind of like just reading it for okay. I was never, or at least not too much, being like, oh no. Except the very end when they were going to get split apart, then I was like, oh, that sucks. But I was kind of like, hey, cool, this is different. Yeah, it's just not going to work out. But I don't know. I guess I shouldn't drag this on because I don't have much more to say about this. It's forgettable, and I'm hoping the Frugal Wizard book is much better because I am going to jump right into that and do that one in the Sunlit Man back to back. So next week should be the Frugal Wizard one. Then a couple weeks after that, Sunlit Man. Let me know what you thought about this book. I looked at some reviewers online. I saw a lot of people who liked it. I only found a couple who seemed to be on my level, same kind of vibe with the eh. So, to each their own. If you liked it, great. That's one more book you get to enjoy that I don't. But it is what it is. We'll move on to the Frugal Wizard, and I will see you next time.